My boss's sister came to my desk, then whispered, "The Phoenix files are gone." The ambient hum of the server cooling system on the 42nd floor held steady at 45 decibels. I relied on that sound. It meant the temperature was stable, the hardware was breathing properly, and nothing inside my sector had crossed a line without leaving evidence behind. 3 monitors sat aligned with the edge of my desk. 2 encrypted backup drives rested in their marked trays. 1 unopened black coffee sat exactly 6 inches from my keyboard, already cold because I'd forgotten it for the 3rd time that afternoon. Green lines of encrypted traffic scrolled down the secondary monitor. The office behind me was all glass, steel, and late afternoon light. Parker Holdings liked to look transparent from the outside, but the real company lived behind biometric locks, internal servers, access permissions, and men in expensive suits who treated confidentiality as a weapon when it suited them. A discrepancy appeared in the reflection of my primary screen. The frosted glass doors opened without my authorization. I did not reach for the silent alarm. I did not stand quickly. Sudden movement creates more noise than information. I watched the reflection first. Elena Parker stepped into my security office with a corporate access folder clutched against her side and a silver flash drive sealed in a small evidence sleeve. She stopped on the far side of my desk, not close enough to crowd me, not far enough to pretend this was ordinary. Her eyes cut once toward the frosted glass doors before she lowered her voice. "The Phoenix files are gone." That sentence did more damage than any alarm. The Phoenix Project was Parker Holdings' highest value development initiative, a multi-year encryption architecture Elena's division had built under strict compartmentalization. If those files had left the building, her division would be frozen, the stock would take a hit, and the board would use the breach to strip her authority before she could prove what happened. I turned my chair slowly. "Elena," I said, keeping my voice level, "tell me exactly what was accessed." She placed the flash drive on the center of my desk. Root directory screenshots, architecture maps, beta encryption models, time-stamped proof that someone copied the Phoenix build package Friday night. "Who has the screenshot?" "An anonymous sender." Her fingers tightened around the edge of the access folder. "They sent it to my personal account 1 hour ago." "Why come to me before Caleb?" "Because if I tell Caleb before we secure proof, he absorbs my division by morning." Her jaw held firm, but the paper folder bent under her hand. "He has been looking for a reason to fold development back under central operations for 6 months. He calls it risk reduction. I call it control." Caleb Parker was CEO of Parker Holdings, my direct superior, and Elena's younger brother. He loved his sister in the loud, controlling way some executives loved anything they could not manage. He believed every independent system was a future liability. Elena had spent 3 years building the Phoenix division outside his grip. "And the board?" I asked. "Wyatt Carter triggered an emergency audit request this morning. He claims workplace policy risk involving my external contractors. If I go to the board, he uses the audit to seize my servers before we know who planted the leak." She took one breath. "If Carter controls the audit, he controls the story." There were the 3 facts I needed. Elena was here because the Phoenix breach could destroy her division. Wyatt wanted the audit so he could take control of her servers and frame her as incompetent. I was involved because corporate security controlled evidence quarantine, access logs, and chain of custody before any hostile board process could touch the system. "Sit," I said. She sat. I opened the top drawer, pulled on nitrile gloves, and picked up the drive without touching the sleeve. "I'm going to sandbox this on an air-gapped terminal. Nothing from this device touches the main network." "Good. You are not going to contact Caleb, Carter, HR, or your contractors until I classify the event." Her eyes sharpened. "You can block Carter's audit?" "If I classify this as a Tier 1 vulnerability assessment, all non-security audits pause until I sign off on evidence scope." I slotted the drive into the isolated terminal. "That is not a favor. That is policy." "I don't want a favor." "I know." The terminal woke with a low click. A progress bar moved across the screen as the drive loaded inside the sandbox. Elena watched the monitor instead of me. That helped. Panic likes faces, evidence likes screens. The first screenshot appeared. Phoenix_project_root, architecture. Beta_keys, build_archive. Export log timestamp Friday, 11:42 p.m. I leaned closer to the terminal. The timestamp was real. The directory structure was real. But the routing delay embedded in the access packet was wrong. It looked like an outside ghost IP, but the latency was too clean, too symmetrical. A real external hop would carry noise. This one carried theater. This may not be an outside breach, I said. Elena's shoulders shifted. What does that mean? It means someone may have made an internal theft look external. Carter? Maybe. I removed the drive and sealed it in a fresh evidence bag. Not until the logs say so. For the first time since she entered, a small flicker of relief crossed her face. Not because the danger had passed, because the room had rules. I opened a new case file. Here are my terms, I said. I do this lawfully. No deleted evidence, no private data phishing, no off-book retaliation. If we find a crime, legal gets it. If we find an internal policy breach, the proper process gets it. But until then, no one touches your servers without my signature. Elena nodded. And my phone? Why would they need your phone? Her mouth tightened. Wyatt's audit request mentions inappropriate external relationships and possible device compromise. My fingers stopped above the keyboard. That language was in the request? Yes. That is not an audit. That is a trap. I know. Wyatt Carter did not need to prove Elena leaked Phoenix. He only needed to create enough doubt around her judgment to trigger HR, seize her devices, and turn private messages into boardroom ammunition. I typed the classification header. Tier 1 Vulnerability Assessment, Phoenix Project. Then I looked at Elena. I can protect the chain of custody, I said, but you have to stop giving them informal access, no hallway explanations, no emotional defense, no unsigned devices. Everything from this moment goes through documented process. She straightened in the chair. Tell me what to sign. That was when I knew she would survive it. Not because she was calm, because she was ready to work. By 7 that evening, my office had become a bunker. Elena sat across from me with her laptop open on the guest table I had cleared for her. The glass wall behind her reflected green code from my monitors. Outside, the city dimmed into blue and gold. Inside, the server hum stayed steady. We mapped every access point. Phoenix Development Server, External Contractor Portal, Executive Document Vault, Personal Account Thread Email, Audit Request, Wyatt Carter's Emergency Motion. Each item received a number, a timestamp, and a next action. Elena did not wait for instructions after the first hour. She pulled contract dates, access rosters, board notices, and project approvals from memory faster than I could request them. At 8:13, she turned her screen toward me. Here, she said, Wyatt's audit request cites a contractor named Veil Systems. We terminated Veil 6 months ago. They no longer had portal access on Friday. Can you prove termination? She clicked twice. Signed removal notice, credential closure receipt, legal acknowledgement. I read the document. Good catch. Her eyes stayed on the screen, but one corner of her mouth moved. I do understand my own division. I never suggested otherwise. You would be surprised how many men do. I would not. That earned a short, dry laugh. The sound cut through the cold room like the first small crack in a sealed window. At 9, my sister Claire Morgan arrived with 2 paper bags and 3 coffees. She was a corporate attorney, technically outside Parker Holdings, and the only person I trusted to read policy without turning it into politics. She stopped at the door, raised one eyebrow at Elena, then looked at me. You called me to review audit containment, which means someone in this building is either reckless or ambitious. Both, I said. Claire stepped inside. Wonderful. I brought soup. Elena blinked. Soup? You look like you've been surviving on adrenaline and executive contempt. Claire set the bags on the side table. Eat before you sign anything my brother puts in front of you. My brother, Elena asked. Different brother, I said. Claire pointed to me. This one believes black coffee is a food group. I have suffered professionally." Elena laughed again, softer this time. That became the first warm thing in the room. We ate with laptops open and legal pads between us. Claire reviewed the Tier 1 classification and confirmed what I already knew. "Carter can request an audit," she said, tapping the page with her pen. "He cannot override active security containment without legal scope. If HR tries to seize personal devices before scope is defined, they risk violating internal data privacy policy." Elena lowered her spoon. "So they cannot just take my phone?" "They can ask," Claire said. "They can pressure, they can posture, but extraction requires chain of custody, scope, and legal authorization. Ethan controls the first piece." I watched Elena absorb that. The spoon in her hand stopped trembling against the paper bowl. Not because Claire comforted her, because the rule had a door, and we had found it. The next morning, Caleb Parker intercepted me by the elevators. He wore a dark suit, a gold watch, and the expression of a man who had been told no by a system he owned. "Morgan," he said, "why is Wyatt Carter telling me you are obstructing a board-authorized audit?" I shifted the encrypted backup case from one hand to the other, because I paused it. "You paused a board audit? Under Tier 1 vulnerability protocol?" Caleb stepped closer. "Elena authorized that?" "Yes." "Convenient." "Correct." His eyes narrowed. Caleb was not stupid. That made him dangerous in a different way from Wyatt. Wyatt used rules like blunt instruments. Caleb used pressure like a weather system. "What is my sister hiding?" he asked. "Proprietary company data?" "That is not an answer." "It is the only answer I can give before the assessment is complete. If Phoenix is compromised, I need to know. If Phoenix is compromised, I will tell you with evidence, not rumor." He looked at the backup case. "You work for Parker Holdings." "I work for the security of Parker Holdings." "That distinction better hold up in the boardroom." "It will." For 3 seconds, the elevator lobby held nothing but recycled air and the soft ding of a car arriving on another floor. Then Caleb stepped aside. "You have until Monday," he said. "I'll take until the evidence is complete." His jaw tightened. "Careful, Ethan." "I usually am." I returned to the 42nd floor with Caleb's warning in my ear and a stronger reason to move faster. Elena was already in my office when I arrived, standing by the guest table with a fresh stack of printed contractor records. She had not used Caleb's master override this time. She had requested access through the temporary security credential I issued the night before. "Progress." "Caleb found you," she said. "Yes." "Did he threaten you?" "He expressed an executive preference." "That means yes." I set the backup case down and opened it. He is worried. "He wants control." "Those can be related." She looked away toward the frosted glass. For a moment, the executive mask slipped, and I saw the exhaustion underneath. Not fragile, worn down by years of being managed by people who called it protection. I moved the second monitor slightly, angling it toward her side of the table. "Look at this," I said. She stepped closer to the screen, still on the opposite side of the desk. The access log showed the ghost IP packet trail. "External route?" she asked. "Staged external route. See the timing?" She leaned in toward the monitor. Not toward me. The intervals are too even. "Exactly." "A real remote route would jitter." I looked at her. She lifted one shoulder. "I built the first Phoenix test environment before I became VP." "I know. No one remembers that." I read the original build notes. For the first time, she looked genuinely startled. "You read my build notes?" They were excellent. The room went quiet. Then she turned back to the screen, but the tired line around her mouth softened. "Competence is a better compliment than beauty in a room like that." By Thursday morning, Wyatt made his move. The email landed at 8:04 a.m. Emergency HR device surrender directive. Scope: all work issued and personal devices used by Elena Parker within the past 36 months. Reason: potential corporate conduct violation, external relationship compromise, and unauthorized disclosure risk. Deadline: 5 p.m. Elena read it on my office monitor because her own account had been temporarily mirrored into the containment environment. She did not speak for 10 full seconds. Then she said, "He wants everything." Yes. My private messages, my family photos, my texts with my mother, every medical appointment, every custody discussion from my divorce. Everything? Yes. Her hand flattened on the edge of the guest table. I should resign. The words landed quietly. That made them worse. I stood from my desk, but stayed on my side of it. No. She looked at me. If you resign, Carter gets the division without proving the leak, I said. If you surrender devices without scope, he gets your privacy and still takes the division. If you refuse without process, he calls you non-compliant. So what is left? Containment. I opened the corporate data privacy policy Claire had marked the night before. HR cannot extract data from a quarantined personal device until legal signs chain of custody and scope. You surrender your phone to corporate security, not HR. I lock it in my vault. I refuse extraction until legal defines the specific data range tied to Phoenix. And if Carter fires you, then he creates retaliation attached to an active security assessment. You say that like it doesn't matter. It matters. I pulled the containment form from the printer. It just doesn't change the next step. She stared at the form. The server hum filled the silence. Then Elena took the pen and signed. Her signature started hard, then steadied by the final stroke. She placed her phone on the desk. I did not touch it immediately. Once I lock this away, you will not have access until legal scope is resolved, I said. No calls, no texts, no checking whether the world is burning without you. I understand. You can still walk out of this whole office. You can call outside counsel from a clean line. You can stop this process before I take custody. She looked at the phone, then at me. Lock it. I put on gloves, sealed the phone in a labeled evidence pouch, and walked to the biometric safe built into the concrete wall. The scanner read my palm. The vault opened. I placed the phone inside, entered the case number, and closed the door. The lock engaged with a heavy steel clunk. Elena's shoulders lowered half an inch. Not relief. Not yet. But the sound had given the fear a wall. By Friday at 3 a.m., the ghost IP trail finally broke open. I was alone in the office, sleeves rolled up, coffee gone cold beside my keyboard. The city outside the glass was black and silver. Green code moved across 3 screens, each line another thread in the knot. The breach was not external. The traffic had routed through a dummy server in the basement, then out through a simulated foreign node, then back into the Phoenix environment, a loop designed to look sophisticated enough to scare executives, but clean enough to fool them quickly. I pulled badge records. Friday, 11:42 p.m. Basement server room. Badge used David Mercer, junior accountant. David Mercer had no reason to be near a server cabinet. I pulled hallway footage. A man in a trench coat, baseball cap low, face hidden. Not enough. I checked payroll anomalies. There it was. A $10,000 discretionary bonus posted to David Mercer's payroll file one day before the breach. Authorization path. Wyatt Carter's executive office. Approval note routed through Carter's assistant. I leaned back from the screen. The chair creaked once. The server hum stayed steady. 2 clues had been there from the beginning. The ghost IP was too clean, and the access point was internal. Now the path had a name, a room, a badge, a payment, and a recovered location. I called Claire. She answered on the second ring. This better be evidence. It is. Do you have legal scope for payroll review? Limited Tier 1 anomaly. Review tied to breach access. Carter's office payment flagged inside the breach timeline. Good. Do not open anything beyond that. I didn't. Send me the chain. By 6, Claire had legal counsel on a secure call. By 7, I had authorization for a limited recovery sweep of Mercer's assigned locker. By 8, building security found the missing external drive sealed in a gym bag under his spare shoes. Mercer folded within 20 minutes. He had copied the Phoenix files because Carter's office promised him a promotion and cash bonus. He had panicked when my assessment started and never moved the files outside the building. Phoenix had not left Parker Holdings. Wyatt's weapon had misfired. Now it was pointed at him. The board meeting began at 10. I entered at 9:57 with an armored laptop, a sealed evidence case, and no expression Caleb could read. The room was full. Caleb sat at the head of the table. Wyatt Carter sat to his right, a stack of HR directives arranged before him like ammunition. Elena sat on the left in a dark blue suit, posture straight, hands folded neatly beside a blank legal pad. She looked at the evidence case, then at me. I gave her one small nod. Wyatt spoke first. "Mr. Morgan has obstructed a lawful HR and board audit. He has shielded Ms. Parker's personal devices, delayed compliance, and possibly compromised evidence." I set the evidence case on the table. Corporate security paused external audit activity because the Phoenix event was classified as a Tier 1 vulnerability assessment. That classification was correct. Caleb leaned forward. "You found the leak?" "Yes." I connected my armored laptop to the boardroom projector. The screen lowered from the ceiling with a soft mechanical whir. The first slide showed the timeline. Friday, 11:42, Phoenix files copied, basement dummy server used as routing node. Simulated external ghost IP created. Badge access, David Mercer. Wyatt's mouth tightened. The second slide showed hallway footage. The third showed badge logs. The fourth showed the payroll anomaly. $10,000 discretionary bonus. Authorization path, Wyatt Carter's executive office. Wyatt stood. "This is an unauthorized invasion of payroll records." "No," Claire said from the speakerphone at the center of the table. Wyatt froze. Caleb looked sharply at the device. "Claire?" "Legal counsel authorized a limited anomaly review tied directly to the breach access timeline," she said. "The payroll record was not searched generally. It was flagged because a compensated employee badge was used during the suspected theft window." I clicked to the next slide. Recovered external drive. Locker location. Signed chain of custody. Preliminary statement from David Mercer. "The Phoenix files were copied inside the building," I said. "They were never transmitted outside Parker Holdings. The external route was staged. The HR morality complaint was unsupported by the breach evidence and appears to have been used to justify seizure of Ms. Parker's personal devices." The room went still. Elena did not look at Wyatt. She looked at Caleb. "This is what happens when you let people call control a safeguard," she said. Caleb's face changed. Not dramatically. Caleb did not do dramatic when money and liability were in the room, but his eyes moved from the evidence to Wyatt, and something colder than anger settled there. "Wyatt," he said, "step out with legal." Wyatt tried to speak. Caleb cut him off. "Now." Security entered quietly. That was the thing about real power. It rarely needed to shout. Wyatt left without his stack of HR directives. When the door closed, Caleb remained standing. For once, the CEO of Parker Holdings looked like a brother who had arrived too late to a room already damaged. "Elena," he said. She lifted one hand. "Not now." He stopped. "Good." She turned to the board. "The Phoenix project remains secure. My division remains operational. I am requesting formal autonomy protection for development, a revised audit process requiring legal scope before personal device review, and a permanent security liaison assigned through HR and procurement." She placed a document on the table. Not a plea, a proposal. I had not seen it before. That mattered. She had built her own next step. Caleb picked up the document and read it slowly. "You prepared this?" "Yes." "When?" "While everyone was trying to decide whether I deserved privacy." The boardroom stayed silent. Caleb looked at me, then back at his sister. "Approved for legal review," he said. "Temporary protection effective immediately. Full board vote Monday." Elena nodded once. No smile. "Not yet." The meeting dissolved into council, procedures, suspension notices, and damage control. I disconnected my laptop and packed the cable with careful hands. Elena walked around the table and stopped beside the evidence case. "Phoenix stays mine," she said. "Yes." "Wyatt is suspended pending investigation." "Yes." "My phone?" In the vault until legal signs release scope. If no scope survives review, it returns unopened. She looked toward the door where Wyatt had left. Then she looked back at me. Thank you for not reading it. That was the job. No. Her voice softened but stayed steady. That was the line. I had no answer for that. The server hum was absent in the boardroom, replaced by the projector fan cooling down above us. The sound clicked once, then stopped. Elena opened her folder and removed a second page. Legal will route the liaison assignment through HR and procurement, she said. No favors, no blurred lines. If the terms are clean, I'd like you to review the role. I looked at the page. Formal request. Scope of work. Reporting structure? Conflict of interest review. Data privacy boundaries? Clean. Practical? Hers. I'll review it when legal sends the official packet. I said, I know you will. She closed the folder. Then, after a moment, she added, coffee after the review. Public lobby. Your choice. That was the first time I smiled in that room. Black coffee? You need something better than that. I'm open to evidence. A real smile reached her eyes. Monday's board vote confirmed what Friday had already proven. Elena retained control of the Phoenix project. Development received formal autonomy protections. Wyatt Carter was suspended pending outside investigation. Caleb issued an internal notice revising emergency audit authority and requiring legal scope before any personal device extraction. He also came to my office at 6:30 that evening. No entourage, no gold pen, no performance. Just Caleb Parker standing in the open doorway of the security office, looking at the frosted glass as if seeing it for the first time. You were right to block us, he said. I looked up from my monitor. Yes. His mouth twitched. You could pretend that was difficult to say. It wasn't. He stepped inside. I nearly handed Carter the tool he needed to destroy her. You were worried about the company? I was worried about losing control of it. That was more honesty than I expected from Caleb. I said nothing. He looked at the guest chair beside my desk. Elena had been using it for 6 weeks. I had stopped pushing it back against the wall. She built Phoenix before any of us believed it could work, Caleb said. Yes. I forgot. Yes. He exhaled through his nose. Take the liaison review seriously. I take every review seriously. I know, he paused. Take my sister seriously too. I met his eyes. I already do. Caleb nodded once and left. The server hum returned to the room. 45 decibels. Stable. But the office no longer felt as if it existed only to keep the world out. 2 weeks later, Elena walked into my office through the front entrance. Badge authorized, access logged, no master override needed. She wore a charcoal blazer and carried 2 coffees. Not takeout dinner. Not an emergency? Coffee. She placed 1 cup on my desk exactly 6 inches from my keyboard. Your system has a flaw, she said. I looked at the cup. It does? You keep letting coffee go cold. That is not a system flaw. That is a workload issue. It is now part of my division's risk assessment. I'm concerned about your scope. You should be. She sat in the guest chair, the one still angled toward my desk. The Phoenix status dashboard glowed on my left monitor, green across the board, clean access, no external anomalies, no unauthorized audit calls, no hostile board notices. Elena looked at the screen, then at the vault. My phone? I opened the safe, removed the sealed pouch, and placed it on the desk. Legal released it unopened. She picked up the pouch, checked the seal, and let out one quiet breath. Then she signed the release form. No one had read her private messages. No one had turned her life into leverage. She slipped the phone into her bag and placed another document on my desk. The liaison agreement cleared HR, legal, and procurement, she said. Reporting line avoids conflicts. Data privacy boundaries are written in. Either of us can terminate assignment with notice. I read the first page, then the second, then the signature block. She had already signed her side. I picked up my pen. Before signing, I looked at her. This is professional. Yes. No blurred lines. No. And coffee after the quarterly security review is separate. Completely separate. Public lobby? Glass walls everywhere. I signed. The pen scratched once across the paper. The sound felt louder than it should have. Elena took the signed copy and slid it into her folder. The server cooling system hummed around us, steady as ever. Green code moved across the monitor. The vault door sat closed in the wall. The guest chair stayed where it was. This time, I did not move it back. Elena lifted her coffee. To clean process, she said. I lifted mine. To privacy protected. She smiled over the rim of the cup. Outside the glass, the city was turning gold again. The same light that had cut sharp shadows across my desk the day she came in with the flash drive now softened against the windows. Nothing in the room was perfectly symmetrical anymore. 2 coffee cups instead of 1. 2 chairs angled toward the same screen. 1 access line, logged properly. 1 door that opened because permission had been granted. For years, I had treated safety as distance. Now, with the server hum steady and Elena Parker sitting across from me by choice, I understood something better. A good perimeter does not keep everyone out. It protects the people who are allowed in. The end.